Hey guys, I wanted to shoot a little video to talk to you guys about the week 3 challenge. I'm going to post. There's going to be kind of two parts to this challenge, and they don't necessarily correlate with each other. So just make sure that you guys understand what the challenge is going to be. So I'm going to post a Peter Attia video that I've posted in previous life challenges before, but it's a discussion over different diet protocols and different ideas about fasting. It's like a 5 minute video. It's not very long at all. But what this is going to do is this is going to lead us into our week 4 challenge, which is going to be a chance for you guys to play around with fasting a little bit. So the reason I think this is important is from a metabolic flexibility standpoint. So um, metabolic flexibility, that means that you can survive off of different diet protocols, and you can survive with a surplus or a lack of food, right? So I think fasting is super beneficial. I think that the science is there showing that the worst thing that you can do for yourself in terms of long-term health is to be eating past a 12-hour window. What that means is, like, if you're eating your last meal at 9 o'clock at night and then you start eating at 8 o'clock the next morning, you haven't allowed yourself 12 hours to digest and process that food. So basically you're now eating for 13 hours throughout the day. And when they've done the research in mice studies, when they do that to mice, the mice chance of getting cancer and becoming diseased increases exponentially. Versus if they do a time restricted feeding window of 12 hours or less, that allows the mice to have time to digest food, and it allows the body time to recuperate. So one of the things that used to be very common was they would tell you to, graze constantly throughout the day. The problem is you're just constantly sending energy and resources to your gut to digest that food, which is, I think, much harder on you. So fasting, back to fasting. So your ability to wait until a certain point of the day to eat and to elongate that window does a few things. For one, it kind of naturally calorically restricts you, which is why I wanted to wait until the last week, because most people, when they do a life challenge, find out that they're grossly under eating, and that kind of chronic under eating, it puts you in a position where you're going to gain weight, right? The human body is an evolutionary machine. And when the body senses a lack of food, it will purge muscle because muscle requires a lot of calories, and it will gain fat because the body doesn't sense that there's enough food in the environment. So we don't want to have something like a muscle burning machine, which is just constantly requiring food. Instead, you want to gain fat so that in case you have to go a long period without food, you have plenty of fat storage within the body. So that's something that I see that's very common with people who are first starting to do macronutrients, and that's why I wanted to wait until the last week for you guys to play around with the fast, because you need to get used to eating enough calories so you know what that feels like. So that's one. Two, Jen and I have started doing 3-day fasts once a quarter. And it kind of goes hand in hand with that idea of allowing the body to go through and repair dead and mutated cells, right? So when you're constantly digesting food, your body is sending resources to your stomach, and you only have a finite amount of energy in your body. So your body is not able to go through and basically clean house. If you allow yourself periods of time where you're not eating, which was very common when we were hunter gatherers, you would go for periods of time without food. That's why humans are designed to overeat. When we do find food, we tend to overeat it because for that same thing, you find a treasure trove of nuts or berries, you would want to eat as much as possible so that you could put on a little bit of fat and store a ton of energy. So the reason we do 3-day fast once a quarter is because now we live in a society where you can get food anywhere, and it's readily available. So you need to allow your body to go through periods of time where your body can go through and clear out dead and mutated cells. And when you fast, especially over a prolonged period of time, your body, in the absence of exogenous food or food outside of you, will go through, and any dead or mutated cells within your system will be broken down and partitioned and used as fuel. That's a process called cellular autophagy. And usually that kicks on there's some evidence to show that it kicks on a little bit earlier, but for the most part, around 72 hours is how long that process takes. So there's different dieting protocols. There's fasting mimicking protocols. There's 3-day fast. I've gone all the way up to 5 days of just straight water. And I think that the benefits really outweigh maybe a temporary sense of misery, especially when it comes to 5-day fast. But I'm going to talk to you guys about some things that you can do to mitigate the pain of the fast as we kind of get into that last week. So, like I said, allowing the body to go through cellular autophagy and clean out dead and mutated cells. The other thing that is a benefit to doing one of these longer fasts is that it will spike your metabolism, right? So, like I mentioned before, most people are not eating enough food. So what that is that's a caloric deficit, right? You're not eating enough to maintain body weight, and if you do it over a long enough period of time, you'll slow your metabolism down. Your body will slow your metabolism down because it senses there's not enough food in the environment, like I talked about, and that's when the purging of muscle cells and the gaining of fat cells increases. So, but when you do it acutely, right? If I do 3 days and I don't eat any food, that's an acute bout of not having enough food. Your metabolism will you go through and clean out those dead and mutated cells, and then when you eat food, your metabolism will spike pretty quickly. So usually in those 3 days, I'll lose about 4 or 5 pounds of what I assume is water weight. But then in like the 3 or 4 days after that, you're pretty much ravenous, and I'll also continue to lose weight over the next 3 or 4 days, even though I'm eating a ton of food. And I think that's that good burning of fat and gaining of muscle. So. That's some of the benefits to fasting. For this challenge, for this portion of the week, what I wanted to do was do a little bit of a kind of a gratitude challenge. We asked the question of the day the other day in class, what are the top 3 feelings you have most often? And there was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of sadness, a lot of tiredness. And I think that doing a gratitude journal is super helpful in that, and reminding you and grounding you in the present moment, but reminding you of the things that are good that are going on in your life right now. Typically what I find that causes people to be miserable is they'll always frame things in the past or the future, and very rarely in the present. So, the future might be like, I'm just not making enough money. The past, maybe you're focusing on past mistakes you made, maybe a change in job or whatever that's causing you to go back into the past and reminisce on things that maybe you're not so happy about. So I wanted to use this exercise as kind of a grounding exercise and to discuss a little bit about your past, but also to really ground yourself in the present. And the thing I wanted to do that I think a lot of people probably haven't reflected on is just living through COVID. So what I want you guys to do is to write a journal entry to yourself. You can write a letter to yourself if you want to make it a little bit more formal, but to list 3 things that you learned through the COVID experience. Maybe it was, the importance of family and friends. Maybe it was the importance of health. Maybe it was, learning something about yourself. But 3 things you learned from that experience. And then 3 things that or 3 changes that you've made since that experience. And then maybe just ending it off with just the gratitude you feel from living through that experience and maybe what you've learned from that. I think that's pretty straightforward. It hopefully will allow you to reflect on that moment a little bit, and hopefully you guys can see what you learned through that experience. I think a lot of people learned through the experience, and I think a lot of people made shifts. So, if you change jobs or if you started a new exercise regimen, just congratulate yourself for that change. And if you maybe didn't learn anything from that experience, or maybe you're still struggling with that experience, maybe it'll allow you to kind of face those things. So that's for your weekly challenge for this week. I'll post that Peter Attia video, and remember just to watch that because it's going to lead us into some things that we're going to do on our final week. I hope you guys have a great end to week 3, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the gym. Cheers.